Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Heilman Haver in the Mix. We are here at the Remedy Speakeasy in Bremerton, Washington with owner Alison Crow. Alison, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's one of our new favorite watering holes here in Bremerton. It is equidistant between the historic Roxy Theater just a few blocks up and the Sea Film Theater just a few blocks down. So a great place to come and wet your whistle, to use a little parlance of the day, before or after a film, and that's exactly what Greg and I did a couple weeks back. And wanted to talk to Alison about how the bar came about, her obsession with the 1920s, and we're going to get into a little bit of history about Mary Pickford, which is the cocktail you'll be making us today. So,
so when you walk in, the first thing you're struck with is it looks like you're in the 1920s.
Right.
The decor is there, the music is there. So, Alison, tell us a little bit about how the bar came about and kind of your inspiration for the design.
Okay. So as was mentioned, I have always been a little bit slightly obsessed with this time in history, the art, the outfits that people wore. I find it really interesting how creative people got to imbibe in booze,
keep drinking
when it was illegal. And so I've had a dream to own a bar for several years, and I knew that that's what my theme was going to be. And when I found this place, I walked in and was like, this is it. This is the one.
Yeah, and COVID hasn't been negative for everyone. This opened during the downturn, right? Our show was launched as a COVID creation as well. So how long have you guys been in business?
Exactly 4 months.
Oh wow! Okay,
yes.
Yeah. So you've been busy, and now a lot of the motif it was here, right?
Mm-hmm.
You said the ceilings, the back of the bar here, which is great. Velvet inlays surrounding all the bottles of alcohol. You said earlier when we were chatting, your dad did some of the carpentry.
He did, yeah. He's a local craftsman and incredible at woodwork. And he, among some other friends of mine, helped do the entire redo of the bar top, some finishing work behind the bar, and a lot of just like final touches that really just made it from beautiful to exactly what the theme.
So now, speakeasies during the 1920s and Prohibition, as you mentioned, if you want to drink, people who want to drink cannot be stopped. So speakeasies start to kind of pop up, these hidden bars, and there was no signage because you couldn't serve alcohol, so you had to know where these were. And in a lot of cases you had to have a special or secret knock or a password. Think Ink and Paint Club and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, for one, if you want kind of an example there. And the speakeasy got its name because when you came into one of these places, you couldn't really make a lot of noise. There wasn't loud music. You had to speak quietly, so the cops wouldn't show up because you don't want the cops showing up because then the jig is up.
That's right. Well, and we were also chatting earlier about how a lot of the cocktails, you guys have period cocktails on your menu, but a lot of them were pretty simple, using simple ingredients because, you were working with borrowed time a lot of the time, or you had limited access to different types of booze. Any bathtub booze served here at all? It looks all pretty top shelf. I don't see any labels with big X's on it or anything like that.
No, we don't. We are trying to, while we're trying to honor the spirit of that time, we're also really excited about offering top shelf, good quality
Yeah, we can see
alcohol.
that.
We also offer the cheapest Rainier in town on tap. So,
Right.
I mean, we like to give
Well, there's
a
that
little
too.
of both. Yeah.
Well, I can say from developing my liquor cabinet over the last 20 months that when you go to a liquor store and you see the wall of rum or the wall of tequila, the wall of whiskey, you don't know what to get. And I can say in the research I've done, the stuff that you guys have here is top notch. It's if you're going to get 6 or 7 or 8 kinds of rum or 6 or 7 kinds of whiskey or tequila, what you have here is the stuff that you'd want to get.
Thank you.
And you're going to make us a Mary Pickford, and I know Greg's got the backstory for that here in a few minutes. But what's your favorite cocktail on your menu currently? You said you're going to be doing some modifications here soon as we get into fall and winter, but what's your current favorite?
Right now, hands down, it's the Aviation. It's a beautiful color. I like to make it with Empress Gin because it's like a royal purple. And just the balance of floral and sweet and citrus is perfect. It's amazing.
Yeah, gin's one of those things that there's a million kinds of gin, and what they use herbal-wise makes a difference. And Empress Gin is a great choice for anything. I think it's my wife's favorite, and we use that a lot. But yeah, it's amazing when you get that alcohol right in a recipe, how much better it makes a drink than using just a plain, gin, maybe even aviation gin. I mean, Empress Gin's going to give you something different than aviation gin will, or than Gordon's gin will.
Well, we were in here a couple of weeks back, I think after a Roxy event, as usual, and Greg had the idea of ordering a couple of Mary Pickfords. We've spoken with some authors in the past, experts on the silent film era, Tracey Goessel, the author of The First King of Hollywood, The Life of Douglas Fairbanks, obviously Mary Pickford's husband. We're going to share a little Mary Pickford trivia here in a few minutes while we enjoy these cocktails that are her namesake. So what's the background on those real quick, Greg?
Well, this, like other cocktails we've featured on our show, The Godfather for one, the origins are kind of shrouded in mystery. There's a story that Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks were in Havana, Cuba, filming a movie together, and a bartender, and then they've come up with a few names of which bartender it is, came up with the Mary Pickford because they were in the bar and he just designed this drink for her. Well, there's no evidence that they were really even in Cuba, nor did they ever make a movie together.
Makes the story even better.
Yeah. But regardless of that, the recipe, obviously, if it's named Mary Pickford, it's in her honor of some, in some way, shape, or form. It first showed up in print in 1928, I believe, and then again in 1930, in a couple of old cocktail books, and we'll link those in the show notes when we release the episode. But the most important thing about the Mary Pickford is pineapple juice. And so tell us about the Mary Pickford that you're going to make here.
Ooh, both.
You go.
All right. So, like you said, pineapple juice is sort of the key juice part. I'm going to be using Don Q, which is a white or a light rum, which the recipe recommends. A little bit of maraschino liqueur, which just adds that nice, delicate maraschino flavor to it. And
it needs to be in a special glass, right?
yes, it is supposed to be served in a coupe, which is one of these guys right here, which actually was the original champagne glass. Weird fun fact.
We need to get some shots of the glassware. I mean, and the lighting. It just really does put you right back in time.
And the color, the one thing I think we were struck with the color, because there's a little bit of grenadine as well that you put in this. Yes. And the grenadine mixed with the pineapple juice gives it kind of this really kind of nice pinky color. I don't know how to describe it, but you'll see it when it comes out. It's just a great looking drink, a simple drink, and great tasting as well.
That's right. You're just going to have to put it on the menu. Right, the Heilman and Haver special. Ask us about the Mary Pickford. We'll tell you more than you'd ever want to know. Well, we'll let you get to it.
We'll let you get at it.
All right, watch the master here.
So then, speaking of while she's doing that, just a little bit more about Speakeasy. So we talked about Speakeasies back during Prohibition. Well, right around 2000, I think people are getting tired of these brightly lit, crowded bars, loud music,
screens on every wall.
Yeah, screens on every, and they kind of longed for a more quiet and cozy environment to sit and relax and have a couple of cocktails, kind of like coffee shops, right? Because coffee shops are, you go to and you sit and relax and you have a nice conversation. But here in this new era of speakeasies, like you said, no screens on the walls. No loud music. It's just relaxing to come into a cozy establishment like Remedy here and have a conversation,
talk about movies.
Yeah.
Great ambiance, great music, and you're definitely going to feel like you have stepped back in time. Yeah, look at that color.
Definitely coming together. And this is it's a fruity drink, but it's not overly fruity. It's not like some of the tiki drinks where you have a sweet rum and your pineapple juice. Oh, let the magic happen. But yeah, some tiki drinks get overly sweet because you're putting sugar in and you're putting the juices and the rums. And this is sweet but not too sweet.
I could very easily see a umbrella in this.
Yeah.
However, it does have a nice fruity.
Yeah, I am going to garnish it with an amaretto cherry because it's delicious.
There's that.
You get the big one.
Well, there's that color we were talking about. It looks good.
Yep. And with the froth on top. And a little pearl on that. See, it's those little touches, right?
Those little things that my staff roll their eyes about sometimes.
Oh, no.
But it's so cute.
It's not lost on us. All those are lovely to look at and even better to taste, which we're going to do here in a few minutes when we talk about Mary Pickford. But we want to. How can folks get in touch, follow you guys, see your menu, etc.?
Yeah. We have a website, remedyspeakeasy.com. We are on Facebook as Remedy Speakeasy, and we're on Instagram. We're open every day at 3 o'clock. We have happy hour every day from 3 to 4:30, and we just started doing a Sunday brunch from 10 to 2. Our brunch food is very exciting.
Well, you had mentioned to us off the air that one of your goals was to run a bar that had really good food, and Matt and I can say mission accomplished.
Yeah, big time.
When we were here the other night, we had the Derby sandwich,
open face sandwich,
phenomenal. Can you tell us a little bit before we let you go about the menu? We've talked about your drinks and your cocktails. What about your menu?
Yeah, the menu was kind of dreamt up by my business partner, who's the head chef, and myself and the rest of the crew. We have brainstorming sessions and came up with food that was inspired by popular food during the 1920s, and also food that was just going to be really, really good and different than what you can get everywhere else in Bremerton. There's a lot of sports bars in Bremerton, and we wanted to offer something different, so that's where we landed.
Awesome. And yeah, from the food and the drinks and the atmosphere, definitely recommend that if you want a nice relaxing evening, come down to Remedy. 4th Avenue in Bremerton.
Yeah. And remedyspeakeasy.com. Perfect.
And you can tell them Heilman and Haver sent you.
That's right. Well, Alison Crow, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for sticking with us. Here we are at the Remedy Speakeasy in Bremerton, Washington. We just had a chat with owner and operator Alison Crow about what makes this place so special. And the 1920s feel, I think, is really one of the big draws here, along with the cocktails that are themed for that era as well. One of them being
the Mary Pickford.
The Mary Pickford. Yeah. We've been honored to be joined by guests in the past, authors and experts really on the silent film era. And we think of Tracey Goessel, who wrote a very thick book about Douglas Fairbanks.
Very thick.
Yes.
But very good.
Yeah, husband of Mary Pickford. You really can't say one name in a sentence without mentioning the other.
No, they were probably the first Brangelina or whatever,
Yeah, for sure. And we wanted to celebrate Mary Pickford today a little bit with a cocktail in her honor. It's a delicious, really kind of a maraschino liqueur-based cocktail.
It is.
Rum-based, but definitely a cherry flavor.
Yeah, rum's the base alcohol, but you have the pineapple juice, and the grenadine gives it that pinkish flavor, along with the maraschino liqueur. So it's cherry and pineapple. I mean, it's super good. Great
color. Cheers to Mary Pickford and the Remedy Speakeasy, keeping the 1920s alive in Bremerton.
You're welcome.
Great place to come down, have a conversation, talk about movies. You're not going to hear a lot of blaring music, a lot of no screens.
No sports on the wall.
Great ambiance. Yeah, the type of place that Fairbanks and Pickford probably would have frequented had they visited Bremerton. And
or had they actually visited Cuba.
That's true. We don't quite know the origins of this cocktail, but one day maybe. I think that's you've got a new detective job on your hands there. Right, Mary Pickford was quite a lady for many reasons. Most people think of her as a silent film star, but she was many things, and the film industry really wouldn't be the same without her, or Fairbanks, and a few of their contemporaries, Charlie Chaplin, D.W. Griffith, etc. Mary Pickford was known as America's sweetheart, which is funny because she's born in Canada, a great white northerner. 1892, and she was born as a Gladys Louise Smith, and so America's sweetheart, born in Toronto. But that's the way things go. She was obviously a prolific actress. She toured with a family acting group as a youth, and very quickly went on to conquer Broadway in New York, and met up there with D.W. Griffith. And when he started making films in L.A., he took Mary with him, and shortly she had signed with Biograph Pictures and was making depending on who you ask, between 40 and 50 films a year by 1909.
That's crazy. When you think about that many films, and there's no, I mean, I don't know, I can't say enough about silent films. And
you become quite a connoisseur, along with cocktails, also silent films.
Yeah, I've grown to really appreciate them. I started when we were interviewing Tracey Goessel. Part of my homework was to go out and watch some Douglas Fairbanks films and you appreciate the emotion that these actors can portray on screen without words. It's amazing how much they can do, and people laugh. I think a lot of people these days, especially because these films are now over 100 years old, they kind of laugh at them as like primitive and
campy and overacting and all the gestures. But
you watch some of the Chaplin films and you see some of the comic gags that people still rely on today. And so the silent films are definitely the stepping stone for modern cinema, and there's a lot of gems out there.
Well, people like David Mamet actually said a perfect film would be a silent film. You really don't need dialogue if you really shoot it and then edit it correctly. But funny enough, Mary Pickford was in talkies. She continued to act after the advent of sound in film, did not care for them. She is famous for saying adding sound to the movies would be like putting lipstick on the Venus de Milo. And she was right. When talkies hit, it did kind of, her career did begin to decline a bit from an internationally known star.
As did her husband's. And when we were talking with Tracey Goessel, we mentioned the film The Artist, which is loosely based on Fairbanks as the lead character, and talking about how difficult it was to transition from silent films to talkies. Yeah,
for sure. Again, funny thing about that being that she actually won an Oscar for a talkie, Coquette, in 1929. Best Actress in a Leading Role. She was the second woman to receive that honor, because obviously the Academy Awards were brand new. She was part and parcel to that, to the creation of the Academy Awards. First actress being Jeanette Gaynor for the 1927-1928 years. She was also the winner of an honorary Oscar in 1976 in recognition of her unique contributions to the film industry and development of film as an artistic medium. And that takes us right into, we mentioned D.W. Griffith, Charlie Chaplin, the founding of United Artists. This was actually before she married Fairbanks, but this all happened in 1919 while she was still acting, but Pickford really got into producing with United Artists, and she retired from acting in 1933, ended up selling her shares in the company in 56 for, hold on to your hats, $3 million. Can you imagine? Hey, granted, $1956, but still, that's,
Well, interesting thing about also United Artists, and tie into our podcast episode this week when we talked to Scott Eiman about 20th Century Fox.
Yeah, Daryl Zanuck,
20th Century Pictures was before merging with Fox or taking over Fox, was the most successful independent film company, but released through United Artists as an independent company. So it all kinds of ties together.
Yeah. Apparently, she and Fairbanks were not only international stars, but they were legendary hosts. Their dinner parties really, the dinner guest list really were the who's who of who you would want at a party. People like F. Scott Fitzgerald, George Bernard Shaw, Amelia Earhart, Charlie Chaplin, who keeps coming up, Charles Lindbergh, Jack Dempsey, Helen Keller, H.G. Wells, Arthur Conan Doyle, and the Crown Prince of Japan, to name a few.
I mean, that's a who's who of everything.
of every angle, right. And of course, Mary Pickford was also a great philanthropist. She, during at the end of World War I, she helped found the Motion Picture Relief Fund to help needy actors. It almost sounds like the Actors Fund. Yeah, of course, our friend Dr. Jason Kint back in New York. And in 1932, she started the Payroll Pledge Program, where people in the industry pledged to give 0.5% of their earnings to the Motion Picture Relief Fund, just as a safety net for artists who needed help. So pretty neat. And it's another facet of her work and her life. Along with Fairbanks, now this is also disputed. We talked about whether or not this was actually how it was named for her, when, where, etc. Supposedly, officially, we'll say officially, her and Fairbanks were the first ones to ever put their hands in the cement in front of Grauman's Chinese Theater. There is a little bit of Hollywood lore that says that Norma Talmadge was kind of, just walking through and gave him the idea, gave Sid Grauman the idea. But we'll say, for the sake of our show, it was
Yeah,
Fairbanks and Pickford.
I think it reads better historically.
It does. And they were, I mean, international stars to a level that we don't see today.
No.
People didn't know necessarily who the president was or who the prime minister was, but they knew Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks. And this is during a time, again, when people, that was the only way to see them was to go to a theater. You know, it wasn't being delivered to your living room like it is today.
Yeah, when you think about today, I mean, there's so many people. Almost everybody's famous. When you had the news the way it was, and yeah, I mean, these they transcended pop culture.
Yes, yeah, it really did. And speaking of pop culture, she was more than 40 years old, or 40 years into her career when she made her first TV appearance. Now, if she didn't care for talkies, she probably wasn't a huge fan of television. We don't know that, but she appeared in hundreds of movies. Didn't arrive on television until 1953, but she presented Cecil B. DeMille with the Best Picture Oscar for The Greatest Show on Earth at the first ever televised Oscars. So that seems appropriate, and it shows that she was open to emerging technologies. So
at least to a certain extent.
Interesting about how she felt about her own films, though.
Yeah, I found this kind of fascinating.
Yeah,
too.
at her death, and again, take everything with a grain of salt that you read on IMDb, but supposedly, she wanted all of her films destroyed upon her death because she didn't think anybody would care. Now, we know different. History has proven differently. But again, someone who'd seen all that technology and all that amazing growth in that industry, she probably did feel as if this was just a footnote and probably a relatively unimpressive one at that time.
Yeah, I have to think, because when you go into talkies and then when you go into television, each thing gets so much more attention, almost exponential, because how groundbreaking these things are. You almost feel like yeah, I would imagine you would feel like an afterthought.
Right.
You know, you were so, part of the foundation of everything, but yet, humans tend to pass over, the, what was there before, the new shiny object.
Yeah, and everybody is standing on the shoulders of the people that came before them. So we owe a lot to Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks, and we are here to celebrate her with a cocktail in her honor, the Mary Pickford here at the Remedy Speakeasy in Bremerton. It's not on the menu, but if you come in and tell them that Heilman Haver sent you, they might just make one for you. So thanks to Mental Floss and IMDb for the trivia. Again, if you'd like to check out or learn more about both Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks, go back in our archives and check out episode 19 with author Tracey Goessel. She is a historian. She got started on this book project about Douglas Fairbanks when she purchased Mary Pickford's love letters to Douglas Fairbanks from an estate sale, auction type situation, and really just fell in love with their love story.
How amazing is that?
Yeah, to have those. So again, that's episode 19 from all the way back in March of last year, I guess. Well, no, I guess this year. It's all a blur. It's all a blur. But mark your calendars also for October 15th. Like Greg said, episode 48 with Scott Eiman, his new book, 20th Century Fox, Daryl F. Zanuck, and the creation of the modern film studio. I'm sure their names come up occasionally. Zanuck was very prolific at that time and involved in a lot of the projects.
He's another one. Moved from silent films to talkies. And stay tuned to the episode to find out how that transition went.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, opening October 15th, which is just in a few days, Love Letters down at WWCA, one of our favorite local theaters. Check that out. Runs through October 31st. And of course, October 23rd, Moulin Rouge, just a few blocks up at the historic Roxy Theater. Check that out. Jeremy Arnold, our friend from TCM, his final review or intro of the series. We're going to get him up here at Christmas time. Make sure to come to the movie and then come down to Remedy Speakeasy here on 4th for a cocktail before, after, or preferably both.
Yeah.
And that's it. I think it's all the news of Fit to Print.
I think so.
Yeah. So again, RemedySpeakeasy.com. Thank you again to Alison for her time and for mixing us up this delicious Mary Pickford in her honor. Here's to Mary Pickford, and cheers.